Welcome back to another episode of the SimTech Podcast, a show where we dive into all things simulation, from the latest tech to hands-on techniques that bring realism to training. Today, we're talking about something that takes simulation to the next level, moulage. Whether it's creating lifelike wounds, burns, or bruising, the right moulage can turn an ordinary simulation into an immersive, high-impact learning experience. And who better to guide us through than Bex from BloodyRealistic? She's an expert in special effects makeup for medical simulation and runs a fantastic moulage course that helps simulation professionals sharpen their skills. We'll be talking about what the course covers, why realism in simulation matters, and how you can take your moulage game to the next level. So, if you've ever struggled to make injuries look convincing, or just want to add that extra layer of detail to your scenarios, this episode is for you. So, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to another episode at the SimTech Podcast. Today we're going to be jumping into one of our favourite subjects, and we're going to be jumping into moulage. And to help me do that, I've brought on a very special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Bex. I'm creative director of BloodyRealistic, and I just do moulage. Moulage is everything I do.
I mean, how did you find such a promising and a little bit weird of a vocation?
I sort of fell into it. So I'd started in the world of makeup and special effects, discovered it online when I was a kid, and got really excited about
Where did it come from? What inspired you to go down this route? Was there a moment where you thought, you know what, this is what I want to do?
There was a couple of moments. So it started off when I discovered that you could do it, which was watching a YouTube video of someone just doing a wax cut on someone's arm. Saw it a couple of times just completely randomly, and it piqued my interest. I thought, I want to learn to do that. So then started dabbling in just things that I had at home and seeing if I could do it with that. And then I got asked to do some makeup for the hospital that my mum works at. She's a midwife.
All right.
And she works in the sim centre a lot. They asked if I'd come down and do some makeup for one of their ATLS courses, which was the moment I suddenly realised that you could do this as a career. I had no idea that it was a thing before that.
When you go to like a school's career fair, they don't know, would you like to do medical moulage?
Yeah, it's not something someone tells you very often. But yeah, discovered you could do it through that. And there was a whole world of medical simulation makeup. And the bit that I always loved was doing the wounds and the realistic sort of gore stuff. So it fell in. I always was fascinated by medicine anyway. So it's sort of two parts of me merged into one. And I went, oh, this is a thing. That's what I want to do. So then just followed it from there, and then eventually set up the business. And
okay, so did you do any training, or was it just purely self-taught?
I started off at self-taught. I did a year, just a BTEC level 3 at college of like media and theatre makeup type stuff. But honestly, most of what I did in that course, I'd already taught myself by that point anyway. I did it more for the qualification than anything else. Learned a lot of it just through Googling and trial and error. a lot of trial and error.
Yeah, you're in good company. I mean, there's probably a lot of techs out there that have not had any formal training, but they are learning as they go.
Some of them are incredible. They're doing things that you'd never even think of.
Well, that's it. They've had to adapt. So I came from, my background is the military.
Yeah.
And, they didn't have a lot of makeup. So we was literally using essentially anything that's red and fluidy. We would, you just stick it on there, don't you?
Sounds
you just do
right.
your best that you can. And, YouTube has been really, really helpful for, I suspect, a lot of people. Because if it's a problem for some people, someone always wants to fix it, don't they? And YouTube's a great way to do that.
It's a good source for bouncing off each other, I find.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Pick things up.
Do you have anyone on YouTube who you follow?
Actually, some of mine more in the world of like Hollywood effects, but there's a guy called Stuart Bray who I believe did a lot of the Game of Thrones makeup. Right. He's got a YouTube channel. It doesn't post huge amounts anymore, but some of the videos on his channel are brilliant if you're just starting out and you're looking for just tips and techniques for certain things. A little bit obsessed with that channel. I've spent a lot of time watching that content, but I just sort of Google what I'm looking to find out, basically, or YouTube what I'm looking to find out, and see what I can find there.
Yeah, I mean, movie. Do you watch a movie now and pause it and like, how have they done that? And you're kind of zooming in and going, what's going on there?
It's sort of ruins movies for you to an extent because you just break down all the makeup. So I spend my whole
Yeah.
time just staring at the makeups more than anything. Shows like Grey's Anatomy and things like that, I just spend the whole time watching the makeup and not paying attention to the storyline. It's the best way.
I mean, is there anyone that does it badly? I mean, like oh god, who's done that one there?
You see the odd one, but actually very rarely on things like that because obviously
Yeah.
it's all done to a very, very high standard. But
Yeah, I mean, even with like things like CGI these days, you can never really be sure. You know, is it makeup or is it some kind of digital overlay that's making it all disappear?
yeah, you can never tell.
Yeah. All right. So you've come on here to talk about a course. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I run a Moulage workshop. There's a few different options for how I do it, but the basic one is a full day beginners workshop for anyone, even if you've never done it before.
Mhm.
It's accessible for people who aren't creative, don't do makeup, but just want to learn the Moulage side of things.
Yeah.
It's also good for people that have done a bit of Moulage but don't really know
Yeah,
what they're
I
doing.
think they've all done it, haven't they? But
Yeah.
like I said, they're just making it up, going along. They're looking for it just to improve, really,
Yeah.
aren't they, and make things a little bit more.
So it's nothing major. It's all very basic techniques that can be used. The biggest thing that I find is people need things done quickly and as realistic as possible, but with as few products as possible.
Yeah.
So I've tried to make it so that I'm focusing on speed and basic technique.
Speed's
rather.
a massive issue for me because
Yeah.
you could spend 20-30 minutes getting this beautiful wound and then they'll just come in and put a bandage on it.
Yeah,
And
it
I
hurts,
didn't even
doesn't
look.
it?
I didn't even have time to zoom in on this wound. What's going on
Yeah.
here?
I've done a few like that where they're covered up and you're like, oh, I spent ages on that.
Yeah, so you're right by speed, and I suspect a lot of people will also be wanting to know about equipment as well. won't they?
Yeah. So I use a mixture of both professional makeup products and sort of everyday products, and I talk a lot in the workshop about how you can do things with stuff that you've got on hand. So I've got a kit that I use with all the products that I love in it, but there's also things like PVA glue, like school glue.
Yeah.
I use a lot for things like burns and stuff like that. So I try and keep it so it's accessible for sim techs specifically, rather than just being a makeup course.
Yeah.
Because it's quite a niche part of makeup
Well,
that
it is,
not a
yeah.
lot of people talk about. So
No, I mean it's a dark hole. I mean, when really do normal people deal with? I mean, Halloween.
yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I mean Halloween busy period for you, or a bit more of a fun time.
I keep it quite calm for myself. I have a lot of
Yeah.
people messaging me at Halloween going, "Can you do my makeup?" But
Yeah.
I don't tend to do huge amounts because I'm not into the sort of character makeup stuff as much anyway. I tend to do those for myself rather than for other people, and not that many people want like realistic open fractures on Halloween, things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't do huge amounts, but I could if I wanted to. It's one of those.
Okay, so you're saying it's just a beginner's course.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, generally everybody can come along, can't they? Even
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be just techs. It could be the clinicians that want to get involved or any part of the team.
Yeah, anyone that could use Moulage to make what they're doing more effective, basically, the course for you. So that's sort of your basic beginning course, but I do also offer like custom options. So if there's things that people already have that basic skill but want to know more about, sort of prosthetics or specific injuries that they use all the time, then I can do custom options like that as well.
Yeah, well, it makes sense because each tech probably has a different. I don't want to say speciality, but a range of. I see more maternal, or I see more A&E things.
Yeah.
So their needs will probably be slightly different.
I think
won't they?
bruising is the thing I get asked for the most, so that's obviously covered in the basic. Everyone's using bruising, so it's a really handy technique to know.
I can't imagine any kind of injury without some kind of.
It's always there somewhere. It's fun to do as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is, we see that a bruise can set the scene, and it's really easy to do well, but actually, it's really easy to do poorly as well, and go over the top.
Yeah, it's your subtlety that I think goes wrong a lot with bruises. People like to put as much product on as possible, and
it's so easy to get
all I
carried
teach is
away.
put as little on as you can when you
get
start
away
and
with
build
it.
it up, kind of thing. Because otherwise, you end up with very harsh, quite unrealistic looking bruises, which have their place.
I mean, it's very practical. I mean, do you provide all the equipment for them?
Yeah, so all the kit that you use on the day, I bring with me, and you can use full range of makeup kit. So anything you need on the day is there ready for you to use. It's very hands-on. Everyone's sort of doing it along with me because I'm a really visual learner. That's why I love the Moulage stuff. So I find people doing it as I'm doing it or just after I've done it you tend to get better result because they're getting the actual practice at the same time as learning the techniques, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so you kind of, well, like I say, we do a faculty development course here, and we introduce a little bit of simulation, Moulage kind of area, and I find it is much easier to, monkey see, monkey do kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a little bit, then you kind of copy.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
break it down.
Yeah, otherwise, you give them all these tools and sponges and you lose them, don't you? They've gone. They're completely distracted. And
people get very excited when they see the fake blood. Usually, is the one that I get.
I mean, what's your favourite? What do you enjoy doing the most?
I love doing burns. Burns are a lot of fun because there's a lot of ways you can go with a burn, and there's no one way that a burn should look. So I find they're quite fun because there's a lot of creative freedom in them, which is a lot of the reason I didn't go into the normal side of special effects makeup, is because I like that freedom to do what I want to do. Yeah. I also just love your basic cuts, and anything I can build up with like a direct to skin silicone is my bread and butter. I love it to pieces. Yeah. So how do you do it then? How do you, if you were just going to do a simple cut, what's your go-to? My go-to product is a product called Sculpt Gel. It's a 2-part silicone, so you mix it together and it will set up or cure into like a rubbery texture. And there's another part you can add to make it softer if you want to, so you can use it all over the body. And basically you just mix it together and you can build up whatever shape you want on the skin with, I just use it like a metal spatula. And then you can paint on top of that with cream paints or whatever paints you've got lying around, lipsticks if needs be, and then you add all your bloods and stuff on top of that. I mean, the hardest part for me is always getting rid of the line that attaches and makes it look stuck on. I mean, what's the key there? Is it just paint and blending? There's a few ways. Some of it is in your application. If you can get your application really, really smooth so that it almost looks like it's blending into the skin, you can then get rid of it quite easily with just real basic colour over the top. The other thing I always say is that people tend to bleed when they hurt themselves. There's a big misconception, I think, in makeup that when you've done all this work on a beautiful, especially like a cut, it's probably a really good way to describe it. You put all this work into adding the colour inside, and then people don't want to cover it with blood because you don't want to ruin all that work you've done. I'm a big fan of cover everything with blood because people really bleed when they cut themselves or whatever. So I've got to say, I'm one of those people. I do like putting a bit of blood on, but then I also want them to see the effort and work that's gone into it. The good thing about it is blood can cover all your flaws. So if you've got a dodgy edge, that's the best way to use it. I haven't done a good job. Quick, pour a lot of blood on. No one will ever tell. But isn't that the key to it? Is that I don't think you can do Moulage wrong, can you? No, I don't think you can. No. I think most of Moulage is just troubleshooting what you've already done. A lot of the time it's, okay, that didn't quite go how I thought it was going to go, but I can add something there and that's going to make it look realistic. It's never going to be sort of 100% realistic, but it's about giving the illusion of realism, I think, a lot of the time. And I love that realistic side of it, but in the sometimes 10 minutes that you've got to put a piece of makeup on, you're never going to get that real high level, like prosthetic, perfect blend. So finding the little tips and tricks of adding blood in the right places and colour in the right places. Bruising, if you don't want to match a skin tone, is quite good because you can use bruising and blood and then you don't need to match those skin tones because that's something that takes a long time. So it's just finding which bits you can cut out of sort of normal makeup processes, if that makes sense, to make things it's the little tips and more tricks effective. It is, of course it is. I mean, how do I answer this without being too gross? I mean, where do you get your injuries from? Do you say you've just done this all your life, so you don't have a clinical background? No, I don't have a clinical. In fact, I don't find there's a lot of people that do this sort of stuff that don't have a clinical background, which I think it would be really helpful for me to have that. But where's your source material? My source material is mostly Google. I've got a few reference books. There's a couple of reference books that are made for special effects makeup artists. So there's one that I've got that literally is page by page, just different injuries all the way through to, again, quite gross, but full decomposing bodies, which is quite something. It's the world that we deal in. Exactly. I sometimes get my source material can sometimes be television, which it's not the best place to grab it from. For instance, most people think a gunshot wound might be this big gaping hole in someone, but actually they're tiny, that it's like a 5.6 mil, that kind of thing. So it's like half a centimetre of the hole. So learning from a very valuable and credible source material is key for me. I always Google real images. So my Google history is horrendous. I think people would panic if they ever looked at it, but it's like real gunshot wound. They have to sort of sift through and work out which ones are real and which ones are makeup. And pathology images are really helpful because obviously you don't get a lot of fake pathology images, but they give you sort of the general shapes of things that you're looking for. And it's almost about using your reference photo and then using what you know about makeup and injury and how it was caused and things like that. So a lot of your scenarios will tell you what caused your wound. Working out sort of, say you've got a stab wound, what direction your knife went in, how wide your knife was, things like that. So if you've got a butcher's knife, you know roughly how wide that's going to be. That's probably roughly how wide your cut's going to be as well. So you can sort of context clues basically is what I base a lot of it on.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but sometimes I think, maybe we're giving people too much credit. I mean, most of the time they see blood, quick, cover it up, are they thinking about, oh, look at the angle. But then, you do have a lot of underlying arteries and muscles and stuff that maybe doctors do kind of think about that thing.
I read a lot of sort of anatomy books as well. So when I'm doing makeups, I tend to look at the anatomy and the part of the body that I'm making up, which can't always be done depending on what you're trying to do with your moulage and what access you've got to time and resources. But if you've got the time to sit down and sort of cross-reference your anatomy and what should be in that part of the body with your image that you found that's about the right wound, and then with your context of your scenario, you can generally piece it together when you've been doing it for a while. It's a learning thing. It's like riding a bike. Once you've got it, you've got it, I think.
I mean, I always struggle with things like location. So sometimes they'll be like, oh, can you give them a puncture wound to the liver? I'm like, well, sure, yeah, I can. And then I've got this like book and I'm holding it against the person going, where's the liver? Is that the right place?
It was not being from a medical background. When people talk about intercostal spaces, I always have to get someone else to count the intercostal spaces because I don't know how to do that. It's just not in my wheelhouse of things. And I'd love to learn it, but I'm too busy doing the makeups at the moment. Right. So I just tend to get other people to go, actually, you need to be about there. And then
sometimes I just get them to come and write. Just take this biro, just write on, whereabouts. Give me a big arrow, point to where you want.
Eyeliner pencils are brilliant for that because they rub off.
That's exactly it. Just point. There you go. All right. And whereabouts do you run this course then?
So I do regular courses in London every few months where people can just come to me to a centre in London that I use. But I also go to hospitals all over the country and deliver them to their own centres. So as long as you've got 2 or more participants, I'm happy to come to your hospital and deliver that workshop in your own space, in your own environment.
Okay, because that's not a lot of people really, is it? And I think was the minimum 5 I saw the other day.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to get a group of 5 people.
I found a lot of people don't necessarily have that many people that they want to do the moulage in their centres or that are likely to be doing it.
Sometimes they've got to reach out to other centres to get people to locate into one group.
Yeah. Whereas, that's why I kept it. I quite like travelling anyway, so it works out for me.
I mean, even for you, having a small group, there's got to be benefits there as well, just teaching a couple of people rather than a large group.
I prefer smaller groups anyway. I tend to not go above 10 if I can avoid it. There's certain cases where it's like we've got a centre that will work together really well, fine, I'll do it. But for the most part, I'd say keep it less than 10 because you don't get as much one-to-one. And sort of groups of 2 or 3 are great because you have all day where you can just focus on their makeups and their techniques, and it's much more hands-on and personal.
Because it's hands-on, I suspect there's no online version of this.
There isn't. I have gone back and forth with doing like an online course. Few reasons I haven't done it. Partly I'm not fab with technology, so I'd need to find someone else to help me out with that bit. It's not in my wheelhouse at all. But also partly I don't think you'd get the same benefit from, because a lot of people are looking at all the online stuff anyway. There's a lot of stuff out there. It's just working out how to then apply it in real life. And I think I get a lot of joy from helping people just tweak tiny bits in their makeups and stuff. So they'll go, oh, why doesn't this look quite right? I'll go, try this.
And exactly. You can't do that kind of stuff.
You don't have that same access
online. There's a bit of a barrier there, isn't there?
Yeah.
And then how much notice do you need if someone wanted to book something?
I'm usually pretty good for timings. I tend to say at least a month just so I can prepare myself and you can prepare yourselves. But honestly, if you've got a date in mind, throw it my way and we can see what we can do. Is the way I tend to work. I'm not too structured with how I book people in. It's just what dates work for you, because everyone finds it a nightmare to try and get their team together is the biggest thing I find. So try and keep my diary as open as possible and just I work around the jobs that I've got going on basically.
Yeah, and like you say, you kind of moulding your course to the user's needs. So it's whatever they need is how you kind of build your course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and what kind of equipment would they need then, or do you bring everything?
I bring everything on the day, so you don't need anything for the day. I also advise on the products that you might want after the day. So if you've got certain injuries you do all the time in your centre, for example, I can tell you that you might need this wheel and that brush or whatever, and those will be the things that you'll use all the time. Or I also do a kit that's everything that you'd use on the day. So if they want to then buy a kit afterwards, so they've got everything that they've used and they can keep practicing, they can do that as well. So don't need anything on the day. But
do you have any sponsors or anything, or is it purely just kind of your opinion on what you think is the best?
It is all me. I am a one-man band, fully one-man band at the moment, which is, again, adds to the limitations of doing things like online courses. But it's all me on my own at the moment.
And if someone attends, do they get any kind of accreditation for completing the course or anything like that?
I offer a certificate. Nothing too official yet, but we're working on it. But you can have a certificate for your personal development file is something that I've done for people. Just if you need something to say that you've done the course, I'm more than happy to provide that for you, basically.
Yeah. What about training instructors? Do you go to that level where actually you're teaching people to teach?
Not yet.
No.
Maybe in the future. Not thought about it, but I could imagine that would be something.
Yeah, because people are crying out for these kind of lessons because it's a little bit of it's just a weird area to get people to come and teach you this kind of stuff, because it's it's just a bit, like you say, as a niche, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite unique.
Yeah, so training people to be other trainers might be a way to go.
Again, I'm very much something I'm open to. If someone wants me to do it, I'm more than happy to do that. It's just not something that I've done regularly or yet.
All right, cool. How much does it cost? The hardest question.
So my course, my full day workshop at the moment, so it includes bruising, scrapes and grazes, cuts and lacerations in the morning, and then in the afternoon you've got burns, which we cover different ways to do the burns because there's so many different techniques to doing it, and we cover infections and blisters. That course is £420 a head, and then it's expenses added on top per course. Obviously not if you're coming to me, it's just the £420.
Okay. And you say that minimum of 2 people?
Yeah.
Maximum of around 10?
Yeah.
And how many hours for the day?
We usually say about 7 hours, but it is dependent on how quickly you pick things up. So I've had some courses where we've done it in 5 because they've just gotten on with it, and they were relatively knowledgeable in what they were doing anyway, so we got through it really quickly. And some of the courses we've spent 7-8 hours just working on little things because I want you to go away feeling confident at the end of it. So roughly 7 hours, but it can go over or under depending.
And what about if people just want to maybe hire you for the day to come and work in the centres and just do Moulage? Are you open to things like that?
Yeah, I recently did a major incident day at Wrexham University, which was so much fun. I love doing that sort of stuff because it's the only chance I really get to actually do the makeup myself anymore. So
I bet there was a
anyone
lot
wants
of people.
Me. It was, I think we had about 15 models that I did in the morning, plus mannequins, and it was so much fun.
I'll tell you what we did. We sometimes do like we go to schools and we do like work. I can't remember what you call them, like not work experience days, but we set up stalls at all the different departments, and we set up a simulation one. And we made the mistake of doing VR and Moulage, and our queue was so long.
I can imagine.
All the kids were like, I want a bruise, I want this, I want that. And honestly, I was doing the VR and I looked over at my colleague, and his queue was about 20 people long and about 5 people wide. And there was no one at any other stall in the whole gym, mainly because people just love this kind of makeup, especially with social media and pictures these days. They love it, don't they?
I got drawn into one of those when I was a kid. In fact, it's the first memory of special effects makeup I had was a St John's ambulance event. And they had a Moulage or makeup artist in the back of the van, and I got them to do a black eye, and I walked around all day with this black eye that I'd had, but I loved it, so I could totally imagine the cues that you get.
Yeah, and I bet you're in the same boat as me, that nobody believes any pictures you send them anymore, do they?
No, I used to sort of leave fake severed fingers around the house for my sister because she's never been a big fan of it. And now I can send pretty much anyone in my family absolutely anything, and they would not believe a word of it. sort of loses its fun after a while from that respect.
Yeah, it does. All right. So we're coming. As I knew, the time flies by so fast,
Quick.
doesn't it? And we're done. How if people want to learn more about you, how can they get hold of you?
I am all over the internet, so it's Bloody Realistic on all the social medias,
Mhm.
and my website is www.bloodyrealistic.co.uk. You can also contact me on email. I'm rebecca@bloodyrealistic.co.uk.
And like you say, I think I've already gave your name and email to some people in the WhatsApp group, so people can. I'll put your information in the episode description,
Amazing.
but they can also contact me, and I'll send them your way as well. And I'm hoping at some point we come back and we do a little bit more of a video podcast where we can maybe do some hints, tips, and tricks, and actually, try not to get struck off for showing too much blood on Spotify.
It's always the hard bit.
Yeah. All right, Bex, thank you for coming along.
Thank you for having me.
I know you've had a little bit of a drive, and it's a Friday, but thank you very much, and hopefully we'll see you soon. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the SimTech podcast. A huge thank you to Rebecca for joining us and sharing her expertise on Moulage. It's incredible to see how realistic injury effects can take simulation training to the next level and enhance a learning experience for healthcare professionals. If you're interested in learning more or signing up for Becky's Moulage course, be sure to check out BloodyRealistic. We'll drop all the links in the episode description. Whether you're a beginner or looking to refine your skills, this is a fantastic opportunity to level up your Moulage game. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow SimTechs. And if there's a topic or guest you'd love to hear on the show, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the SimTech podcast. Until then, keep pushing the boundaries of simulation, and I'll see you soon.